Welcome back to the 99, where we are focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette, and in just a moment, I'll be joined by Justin and Ernesto to continue our conversation on commander staples. This time around, lands and multicolored cards. Now, if you haven't caught our previous video of commander staples, I'll encourage you to do so now. You can do so by visiting our channel page. In that video, we discuss singular colors as well as artifacts. Now, just a few notes before jumping into this video. The recording is on May 6th, 2020. I'm recording this portion May 7th. The pricing guideline we lay out for you, some of those prices will have fluctuated by the time you watch this video. However, one bit of information that hasn't changed is the fact that these are all staples. So all of that information still valuable for you. Do use our notes on the prices, however, as a guide to whether or not these are still good pickups. Lastly, if you want to help support the channel indirectly, you can do so via our partners in crime, TCG Player. All the singles we mentioned today can be picked up via the link in the description, and in doing so, you'll be supporting the channel with all of your purchases. So those alpha beta dual lands, buy them down below. Those foil onslaught fetches, buy them down below if you really want to hook us up. We do appreciate your help here. And furthermore, if you want to support us directly, you can do so via the Anchor support button and the Patreon page. Most of our backers come by way of Patreon, and there are 41 of you thus far, and you all know this, but I'm going to say it now. If you are a backer, you'll be thanked at the end of our video, as well as a few extra perks. But leading up to 99 members, seemed appropriate, I'll be saying all of your names at the end of this video, so hang tight for that. Now, without further ado, enjoy the dulcet sounds of our voice in this podcast version of the 99. Welcome back to the 99, where we are focused on brewing a better competitive commander. I'm your host, Patrick Marlette.
I'm Ernesto Salazar.
Justin Rodriguez.
And today we are continuing our Commander Staples video, but this time on multicolored cards and lands. We do have a brief disclosure for you all, though, on that note.
Yeah, lots of things are going on with MTG finance right now. It's a bit crazy. As everyone knows, because of COVID-19, a lot of people are getting stimulus checks, and so we're seeing a lot of spikes, especially with a lot of the cards we were talking about previously: Wheel of Fortune, Gilded Drake, and most notably our lands that we're going to be talking about today. This is due to having more funds readily available, TCG Player not having as many sellers as possible, and there being low stock all around. So once again, just because we're talking about cards and you're seeing these prices increase, and FOMO is a big thing, fear of missing out, be careful with that. I would not jump on all of these spiked cards right now.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, guys, this is May 6, 2020, as of recording this. So, take the price averages that we're going to be tossing out there with a grain of salt. Again, as Justin said, it's more of a seller's market than a buyer's market as of filming this. We are still going to encourage you to purchase some cards today that are reasonably priced, but some of the lands we're going to begin talking on are definitely not worth picking up at the moment. That is for certain. And lastly, we should briefly mention that regarding the lands we'll mention today, there are certain cards that we were talking off camera about this that see their ways into particular decks like Cavern of Souls, maybe Cephalid Colosseum. We don't consider those staples, though. You're not going to insert those into every list. Things like your Emergent Zone, they're not going to go into every list, not unlike these other cards we'll mention. So the first one we want to start off with is just a bundle of cards, and that is our dual lands. And dual lands at the moment, with Underground Sea being the most expensive at $470 on average, everything under that. Do you guys think dual lands are a good investment at this point? Yes, they are staples. Good investment, though.
Dual lands are a bit crazy, because if you asked me this maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I would have told you that duals are probably at their lowest points that they've been at in a really long time. So I would have said definitely start picking these up. But every single day, we're having new cEDH buyouts, and dual lands were kind of the last thing to spike, and they're starting to increase. So I'd be careful with your purchases.
I don't know. I think it still is time to get them fast before they spike more. But if you expected, as Justin said, a lower price, I think the ship sail. I think it's a bit too late if you want them on the lowest price for a while.
Yeah, They're on that uptick for sure. And there's no avoiding it, though. You definitely want to get your dual lands in at some point. Hopefully, you purchase them after our first Commander Staples video. You wised up before we ever put the word out there and realized that you need to pick them up. I do want to state, though, it is interesting, before we jump more into this video, these spikes we're seeing in cEDH Staples. Cards that we see, most in particular, in competitive Commander settings. So that's interesting how that scene is changing a little bit. I'm glad people are getting into efficient cards now. It's good for everyone.
Most of these spikes and most of these specs are fake news. They don't have legs to stand on. They don't. They're going to crash now once the market reopens. But dual lands are something that are tried and true. They're proven. They're fantastic. They still are at a less price. Like you could still find great deals on these. Mm-hmm. I'd just be very careful, and I would get them sooner than later.
Yeah, and I would be a little buy with caution. Like if you're going to use a Facebook group or a separate group that isn't necessarily trusted, buy with caution when you're spending a couple $100s on these cards, guys. We don't want you to get deceived. If you see, again, like Justin was saying earlier, that FOMO, you don't want to miss out on this option. So if a particular sale looks too good to be true, it likely is. But moving on from there, I do want to talk about Nesto.
One thing is just to add to what you guys are saying of being safe when you buy. If you have dubs, so what are you doing? And if you're already spending like 200, 300 cards for a card, spend the extra 10, 15 to get it from a verified store, so you're not getting rid of.
Yes, like TCG Player, like Card Kingdom, like Channel Fireball, all those guys.
That you can use our link below.
Yeah, and use the link below.
So you can help us, help our addiction to beer.
We should be telling them to buy the dual lands now, then. We're doing the opposite.
We are. We're just telling them, be safe.
So I don't think dual lands are a buy right now. I do.
Yeah.
I think you can find good deals on them. I still think dual lands are a buy.
Got you. How about your shock lands, guys? These are definitely staples in cEDH, in Commander in general, especially if you're playing on a budget. Breeding Pool being our most expensive at $25 on average. Is it a good time to pick up shock lands?
It should be for the allied ones, like the Hollow Fountain and the one that came in Ravnica.
Yes.
Those are the ones. No, wait. I think they get them with full cycle again.
We got it recently. I forget if it was all... what
I know it was allied ones, for sure. But I don't know about the enemy ones. I don't know if it is team bets as well.
Hey, look, if you plan on playing Commander for a while, pick up all of them. Pick up all 10 of them.
Yeah.
I have to say, unless you're really in black, your life in cEDH doesn't matter as much. I mean, maybe it matters a bit more because we're a creature-heavy meta now, but taking 2 damage from a shock as opposed to just buying a dual land, like shocks are usually your first foray into getting a better land base. So I would say, yeah, definitely start picking those up. I don't see a lot of price movement on shock lands, and that's because they have a lot of printings. So I always think they're a safe buy.
No, I agree with that. Unless you're in Villas, by the way, then shock lands are your priority. Okay, and you play all the shock lands, the none, or you have a Villas Reanimator list, and then you'll of course enjoy those shock lands. But yes, they are a good buy. And lastly, some of the most important lands to prioritize. I would say you should prioritize your dual lands first. Second to this, only because the prices.
Only because always.
The prices are so sporadic with duels and the fact that they aren't going to be reprinted again. But Fetchlands. So we just saw a recent reprinting. We won't talk about it. But Fetchlands, with Scalding Tarn being the most expensive, roughly $75 on average.
Interrupt you there. It's actually Misty Rainforest now. It actually.
Oh, is that true?
Yeah, it spiked up a couple of days ago.
What is it at now? Like 80, 90?
80, I think 80s.
Okay, so there's a handful that are up there, and they're only going to rise pending print cycles. But guys, what do you think about Fetchlands? Is it a good time to get in?
I do think it's a good time to get in on most Fetchlands. I think Misty Rainforest is really your only fetch that's seen a lot of movement in the current market. So, I mean, everything else, yeah, I would definitely pick them up. And you got to think, fetches were pretty low at a point, maybe about a month and a half ago, because people were really speculating on when the next reprint was going to be. And, they just came out with this collector's box, and a lot of people, myself included, are very disappointed by that because first, the art's good. Don't get me wrong, but they're not foil. And I like my foils. I like my expeditions. I like things like that. But it's a limited release. Like I think stores are only getting a couple, and the price is very high on that. And so a lot of people are upset about this.
And also the stores are closed, so there's no way to get them.
Yeah, so if anything, Fetchlands increased a little bit after that because now everyone's like, oh, they just kind of reprinted it and nobody really wants it. We can increase this a little bit. I think
still a good time to buy those, what you're saying.
I do think so, except Misty. I've watched with Misty.
But the Modern Masters edition, because those are the cheapest.
Yeah.
Modern Masters and cons for the other lands seem to be the cheapest so far as the prices are concerned. And if you want to go further back, I believe it's Onslaught and Zendikar. Those are slightly higher on average, but guys, they all operate the same way. And I think it's only with Onslaught and Zendikar that the prices, or rather the art varies. I think those are the set of lands that are similar to each other. But
the
on that
foiling,
note, yeah, definitely.
The Onslaught foiling is so beautiful.
Those are so
expensive. If you really want to spend money, then you get those Onslaught foils. And the next land we want to talk about, it's interesting because it's such a potent land. It makes its way into any deck that can utilize it, pretty much any deck that can utilize it, and that's Gaia's Cradle. And these are averaging about $430 right now, and they fluctuate. And only a little while ago, I remember seeing them on 370, 360 on the low end for like lightly played near mint copies. But right now, the average is about $430. It always fluctuates, around that $400 mark. Do you guys think Gaia's Cradle is a good buy right now?
So Gaia's Cradle is one of those things that's been stable for a while. And I don't think the price was that demanding. There's not a lot of drive for Gaia's Cradle, aside from EDH, cEDH. I mean, you got Legacy Elves and such. But now things are starting to spike because of all of these buyouts. And lands we're seeing as like the final movement towards that. So yes, Gaia's is increasing. It is a staple. You need it in certain decks. It's pretty much your priority target when you crop rotate. But I would watch, and I would not buy Gaia's Cradle right now. I think it's seeing a lot of false increase.
I can agree with that. But it's also a reserve list card, kind of like the duels. They go down a bit, but then they go up double what they went down. So it's kind of like doomed if you do, doomed if you don't. I would probably say if you have the money hanging around, probably shell over the 430 is worth, or if you get a deal, of course, like you should get them.
Price per gameplay, Gaia's Cradle offers you so much in acceleration and play, and it's fantastic. But this is a card, like I was just stating, it really doesn't see fluctuation because of any other format. And I think that once the marketplace opens up more, you're going to see a decrease in this price.
One thing I do want to touch on, because I get asked about it all the time, what do I think, and I'll extend this question to you guys, what do you think of championship cards? Because Gaia's Cradle does have a championship version, but I do want you all to note, I personally bought a championship Gaia's Cradle not that long ago for about $35 to fit into my other list that aren't so vola. Now, a championship version of this card is roughly, at least off of MTG stocks as of today, $99.77 on average for a championship gold Gaia's Cradle. Do I think you should...
They're all increasing. You should see Chrome Mox. It's like force of will. Things are all increasing because of these buyouts.
Do I think you should buy them? I personally like this hobby a lot, and I like playing with cards that WotC produced. So for me, I enjoy playing with gold bordered cards and I'm going to air quote here, in a tournament setting. It wouldn't be legal, but if you're a fan or fanatic like myself, you'll enjoy the gold cards. I don't think it's a worthy investment, though. I think if you were going to buy a Guy's Cradle, save the money from the gold Guy's Cradle and just buy the actual copy. Please buy the actual copy.
Completely agree. Yep.
But what do you guys think about gold cards in general, all the World Championship cards?
It's basically, you summarized it. Is if you want the card for a very small fraction of what the real card is that you can use a tournament, fine. But if you know you're going to play in tournaments, don't even bother. Like, it's just a waste of money.
So I'm somebody who went from proxies to gold borders to non-foils to foils. I literally bought all the copies of the same card because I've been at different points in my life with finance, and I have to say, if I could do it all again, I would have just gotten the card that I wanted, and I would have not gotten the gold border.
You know, it's funny. There are some cards that I enjoy just seeing the gold bordering on. Like, I play with a gold Swords to Plowshare just because I, one, enjoy the art, and I enjoy the gold bordering. It's just a fun card to play with, and that's rather inexpensive one, at least when I purchased it. Again, play with them at your kitchen table, enjoy them if you want to own the actual card but don't have the money to dish out. But I think it is far more worthy investment to just buy the actual copy.
One thing I would like to point out about Cradle is one of those specific cards that is just waiting for a new general to come out, and then it will spike all the way to 1k or something stupid like that, because it will happen. It's one of those super busted cards that can just break apart with any sell, like, oh, now we're gonna make tokens. It's I don't know, a 2-drop that fetches a land and makes tokens. That's it. Cradle is busted.
Oh, I just want to state, and it's interesting that you mentioned that, because you'll notice that we're not going to talk about Bazaars of Baghdad today. We're not going to talk about Tabernacle of Pendrell Vale, because we don't consider those staples necessarily. Do they enhance your game? Yes. Does Riel want Bazaars of Baghdad? Yes, she does. Is it a staple in certain list? And it's shocking to me when Ernesto says that, because Guy's Cradle fits into so many lists. It's like, it's one of those, it's broken on that level, and yet I'm going to say it, it's actually reasonably priced, which is really surprising to say. I'm surprised it hasn't hit that spike yet.
It's reasonably priced considering it's not going to get reprinted.
Yes.
That's the big one. Because once it gets reprinted, it's going to be, which will now happen because it's on the list. So, but it's one of those cards that's only spiked because it's super powerful and it's in the list.
Yeah, and so we're just reconfirming that EDH, cEDH are the main price drivers of this card. Nothing else is making this card fluctuate.
I would say Legacy Elves have some pull, but not as much.
This has been stable for a long time, and there has been no new innovations that are really pushing this card outside of EDH demand.
So what do you guys feel about this next one? And this is a one that's spiked just recently. I remember buying 4 of these on the spot when they were reprinted. Ancient Tomb. They're averaging about $39 a pop, depending on the version you get. Do you think Ancient Tomb is, 1, a Commander staple, and 2, worthy of a buy?
100% yes. Both questions.
It's like it's the mana crypt of lands. It's like,
exactly. Why would you not want them? I'm a Joyra player. Why would I not want this land?
Yeah, Ancient Tomb is fantastic. Any land or anything that ramps you towards that greater good is fantastic, and it comes with nothing attached. What, you take 2 life? Life is used as a resource in cEDH. We don't really care too much. It's interesting that everything's seeing a price increase, especially Ancient Tomb. It hasn't seen that much of an increase that I'm really worried about it, though, and I would pick it up if you need one.
Yes, it is a good time. And on that same note, speaking of lands that tap for 2 generic, I do want to put this out there. I don't consider it a staple, but City of Traders is actually in a good spot right now if you've needed one. They're around $90 to $100. I remember picking mine up for like, God, I spent like $140 not that long ago for a City of Traders. And that's a card that you can get a gold version of as well if you want a World Championship version. Not every list can use it, but it's very potent for the list that can.
That's actually because Show and Tell in Legacy fell out of favor. And that's the deck that most abused that card.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, well, perfect. For you Commander players that have been wanting City of Traders, now is the time. Yeah. Now is the time. For your Teshar, you've been waiting for it. Well, now's the time, guys. The next card I want to talk about is a must-have in Commander. It is Command Tower, averaging about $1. Buy them all.
Well, I mean, you turn a rock and you see a Command Tower because it's printed every single pre-con. So it's like we named it because we had to.
But we don't want the dollar version. We want the $70 like promo version. That's the problem.
Okay, I'm a cheapskate. I'm gonna stick with the $2-3 at most.
Only Teshar has the promo version. I got to see that Falling Star, man.
I respect that.
It's a must. It's definitely a must. These next two, and now we're not going to cover all the Rainbow lands, but these, in our opinion, are the core Rainbow land cards, at least what you think of when you're adding them to your list, and that's City of Brass and Mana Confluence. And now, while City of Brass has a lot of printings, on average, they're about $12, with Mana Confluence coming in at $24 on average. What do you guys think about these Rainbow lands? Worth picking up in your dual, trip-colored lists? Of course, your 5-color lists are probably going to use them, but what list would you encourage the use of these in, and is it a good time to buy?
I would say any 3+ color decks likes these cards. And I would say even that Exotic and Forbidden Orchard, which are the other rainbow producing lands, they are also worth picking up because I think they're really cheap. But if I had to prioritize some of them, it would be these two. It would be City and Confluence for sure, because they always add mana, and the drawback is you only lose 1 life per activation. It's not that bad compared to the drawback that you need from Exotic and Forbidden. Also, Confluence only has 1 printing, that's why it's double the price.
Other than the Expedition, but
I don't think in bling. I'm sorry. You guys are the bling ones.
Yeah, so City of Brass has been on the incline for a while now. All printings of City of Brass have been on the incline, and rightfully so. I mean, it's a fantastic card. I mean, it's still cheap. You can still find, like you said, less than $12? You can find a City of Brass. And for what it offers you in cEDH, it's pretty invaluable to have access to all of these colors for only 1 damage.
I agree. And one important thing to note with those 2 cards, City of Brass does still ping you, regardless of whether it's tapped for mana or not. So do bear that in mind. If it becomes relevant, it can still damage you in a lot of situations.
You know, and City could have been found for under $10 for a very long time. I mean, even this time last year. But I have to say, like, it does have a $10 plus effect. It is great for your mana fix.
And mind you, you can probably find damage or moderately played copies for under that 10 mark. And you know what? Those cards need love too. I'm going to say it. So boys, the next cards we want to talk about, there's 2 more sets of lands we want to cover. Canopy Lands or Horizon Lands, with the most expensive being Horizon Canopy with an average of 30 and under. Do we find our single tap for damage / draw lands important?
Those are a major buy right now. And I was saying this even a couple of months ago. When Modern Horizons first came out, you have to think, like, Horizon Canopy, that card was in the $70s, $80s, $90 range. Now we're looking in the $30s. It's fantastic. Like, pick these up. Even, Waterlogged Grove, like all of these Canopy damage draw lands, they're so cheap. They're under $10, most of them. They really are. Like, those are going to increase eventually. I use them in Cube. I definitely use them in cEDH. They should use them in EDH. They're great buys.
To be careful is that they're really good lands. I agree with just Justin saying, but you're not gonna run all of them in a single deck. I play a 5-color, and I've seen lists that run 2 of those, and I think that's greedy. So beware. You should buy them 100%, but be aware of how many you're playing in your deck, because it should be like 1 or 2 at most.
I can agree with that. And it does feed into a lot of strategies and a lot of packages that you're going to be running in cEDH. A lot of top deck tutors. I mean, if you're still on Labman, you're still on Jace. There's another draw for you at instant speed if you want it. It's such a potent land, and the effect is so good. The only thing that could have made it better is if they had types to them, but that would have been madness.
Oh no, please don't.
Yeah, I mean, and you really can't underestimate how good a draw is attached to a land. It is so fantastic, and the price per gameplay value, this is undervalued right now. These are great pickups.
I agree with that. I think for sure. I think the price is really reasonable on them. And if you're just trying to bolster your collection, now would be a good time to get a set of these Canopy Lands to throw onto your list moving forward, whether you use all of them or not. And the last ones we want to talk about are Commander Lands. These are going to be things like Luxury Suite and Morphic Pool. Morphic Pool being one of the more expensive ones at 16 average and under. And just to refresh you listeners out there, all these cards should be on the screen, but these lands, they come into play tapped unless you have two or more opponents. Two or more opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, do you guys think these are a good purchase right now?
Don't they have types?
They don't. They don't.
Oh, they don't.
I wish.
What has been the trend on these? What has been the trend? Have they been increasing or have they been stable?
Yes, they've been going up. Slowly, but they've been going up.
Yeah, I think I own a handful of them, and I don't think I ever spent more than like 8 to 12 on a single one.
These lands are pretty good because they fix your mana, there's almost no drawback, and enters untapped, which for cEDH we always want speed and consistency, and those three things combined. Obviously you don't have type to fetch them, which that will completely break them and make them almost as good as duels.
Mm-hmm.
But aside from that, yeah, these cards are amazing. These cards are really good. You should play them in 2-3 colors if you can.
Yeah,
or not because you're already looking for like a lot of duals, shocklands, because you need more fixing for those colors. Fetchable fixings, I mean.
Yeah, I think if anything, they offer good money per gameplay value. These are fantastic lands. You're always running them. You're always going to have 2+ opponents. Like, how are you not? I think when looking at the trends, they've been really stable for a long time. They haven't really seen much price increase. They've kind of been flat on their curves. And, I think they are good purchases at these prices. I really do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that as well. But that is actually going to cover it for all of our lands. It's quite a long list, but guys, before we move into multi, just some food for thought. Is there anything that you found to be a staple within your mana base regarding competitive Commander? Let us know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this topic. I know everyone has different priorities with their deck building, but moving into multicolor, the first one we want to talk about has been a staple for a long time, and that is Limdul's Vault. And I'm going to go ahead and read these off because they're not as common as our lands here. But Limdul's is Dimir. It's blue-black for instant speed spell. Look at the top 5 cards of your library as many times as you choose. You may pay 1 life. Put those cards in the bottom of your library in any order. Then look at the top 5 cards of your library. And shuffle your library and put the last cards you looked at this way on top in any order. These average about $4.50. What do you guys think about Limdul's Vault?
It's too expensive. I remember seeing it for less than $1 a while back.
Dude, this offers like $50 gameplay value. It is insane how good this card is. It is so cheap compared to, yes, I mean, it's been increasing, sure, but it's so cheap compared to the gameplay it gives you. It is insane how good this card is.
The ceiling is so high, it can actually win you games. It's kind of like a vampiric tutor in a sense, that you can also fix the following 4 cards in the order you need. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I have this amazing card I need to win the game, and oh, there's protection here, so I'm gonna put this here, this second, the rest I don't really care. I'm gonna probably fetch and shuffle them. But comes my turn, draw the top one I need, then crack, I don't know, Horizon Land, draw the second one, shuffle, and try to win or something. The card is really
I could
good.
pay $5. I could pay $5 for Limdul's Vault. It can fall to less than $1 in a year, and I would not feel bad. It is so good.
Yep.
I think I can agree with that. I can agree with that. The kind of value you get off of Lindwill's Vault is insane. Again, and like Ernesto was saying, you're not just seeing one card. It is essentially a tutor. Lord knows how far you need to dig. But I mean, what, on average, how much life have you spent on this package to get a stack of 5 cards on top of your deck that would help you win the game? Like, what? Even if it was 10 life, if you dug 10, yeah, if you dug for 10 life, that's insane. Wait, 5, 10. That's a lot of cards halfway through your deck. I still wouldn't feel bad. Like, there's no scenario where this card being played isn't going to benefit you in a major way. And it's instant speed, too. So, again, you're setting up your next turn. It's one of the best cards in cEDH, for sure, so far as multicolored cards are concerned.
Yes.
100%.
The next card I want to talk about is a tutor, and it's an instant speed tutor called Domery's Call. So this is Selesnya, 1 green, 1 white. Search your library for a creature card, reveal that card, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. It's pretty cut and dry. It's very good. It is a Altar of Bones on steroids. It's just a really good creature tutor. If you are in these colors and if you're in Selesnya, you're probably relying on some form of creature-based strategy. You're going to use this card. And it averages, again, 450.
So, this is the best creature tutor, hands down.
Yeah, I guess unless you're like survival of the fittest might be better in some scenarios if you have some sort of reanimator package, but
1-for-1, this is the best tutor.
So
yes,
food chain decks, certain food chain decks will run this. Chulane definitely runs this. Does your Najila run this?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I mean, this card this card is really fantastic, and I actually just picked up, I believe it's a Plane Chase, the oldest version of this card, the foil. You can still find really good deals on that. I have to say, like, Card Kingdom, TCG is our sponsor, but Card Kingdom sometimes has really cheap old foils. You have to look all over. Look on all your platforms. I mean, I snagged one for like $40.
Yeah, I think it's a Plane Shift foils, and this is like the old border foiling. And also the art style for the card itself is really cool from Plane Shift. Yeah, it's an excellent buy, particularly at some of the lows you can find these at. Again, 4.5 high average, but you can definitely find Domery's Call for less. And there's only been 3 printings. It's good that that price is that low for now. The next card I want to talk about is an honorary tutor. It is in Golgari. It is Assassin's Trophy. So for a black and a green, instant speed, destroy target permanent and opponent controls. Its controller may search their library for a basic land card, put that onto the battlefield, then shuffle their library. This card averages a grand total of 1450 right now. What do you think about Assassin's Trophy, gang?
It's one of the best removals in the format. Sometimes if you're playing against a 5-color and you ask trophies something, that's it. They don't have the basics, and you want them.
This used to be a $25, $30 card, I believe, when it first came out. I think it was even a little higher than that. And I think rock decks at the time in Modern were really bringing this to the forefront. But for cEDH purposes, this is such a good card. And less than $20, yes, all day I'll pick this up. This is great.
It's a slam dunk.
This is because companions are destroying Pioneer, Modern, Legacy, blah blah blah. So Assassin's Trophy goes down in value because of that. Formats are on fire, so cards that are staples of the format that are not being played obviously go down, and we get advantage.
Yeah, it's great. It's funny because Assassin's Trophy in some decks replaced, but for the most part is played companion to this next card. But it's important to note that Assassin's Trophy hits any permanent, so just do bear that in mind. It is one of the best pieces of removal. But the next card I want to talk about, also in Golgari, it's Abrupt Decay. Still a very good card, still a staple. It's instant speed for black-green. Abrupt Decay can't be countered by spells or abilities. Destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost of 3 or less. Still hits a lot of things, and this one averages around $7 a pop. You can find it for a lot less, depending on the set you buy it from. What do you guys think about Abrupt Decay?
Buy them. If you don't have it, buy them. Because it's that good. It's saved my butt many times. I have a kind of a soft spot for the card. Because I faced it, and in Modern, I faced it in Modern, and I played it in EDH, so I've been on both sides of the coin. They're really good.
Yeah, 3 is the magic number. I mean, everything you're hitting at 3 or less, generally speaking, so many commanders, so many value artifacts and enchantments. Again, 3 is that magic number, and the fact that you make this uncounterable is just icing on the cake. Also, I just want to shout out to the World Championship. Seb McKinnon art for this is just so good. If you guys know what I'm talking about, the Shrieking Goblin. So damn good. Yeah.
The promo. I'm actually looking at the promo right now, and it's actually been on the decline a little bit. It spiked up back in October 2019, but it's been slowly coming back down ever since. I think right now Abrupt Decay is a little bit high. It's around 7, I think. So on that curve of finance, it's pretty expensive, and rightfully so. I don't think this card is inflated for. I mean, this card has legs to stand on. It is that good, and I think less than $10. I still think this is a fantastic card because money for gameplay value, this offers so much.
Oh, you know what? Speaking of money for gameplay value, this is a card that's horribly underrated. Honestly, if this was Hidden Gems multicolored cards, this is one I do not see enough in those lists that contain Rakdos. And I'm, of course, talking about Fire Covenant. It is 1 generic, 1 black, 1 red for an instant speed spell. I will read the errata wording just to make it a little bit easier for you all. As an additional cost to cast the spell, pay X life. Fire Covenant deals X damage divided as you choose among any number of target creatures. And of course, Fire Covenant averages about $5 and under. 1 printing from Ice Age. Wow. It's a good card, in my opinion. I absolutely love this card. It's a staple in any list that can use it. How do you guys feel about Fire Covenant?
So Fire Covenant is underplayed because the meta shifted away from it. Originally, Fire Covenant was in any list that can contain those colors. And then as we progressed more into the Flash Hulk meta, things started to change, and I feel like dorks and creatures were less seen. And now, because Flash is banned, and we have more stacks, and I feel like creatures are coming more heavy into the meta, Fire Covenant is 100% worth the price. And this card used to be dirt cheap. I think it was less than $1. Something crazy like that. What is it now?
5 average.
Okay. Yeah, I still think it's money per game value. It's incredible still.
Yeah, I remember getting it for like 80 cents back in the day, and I still think I underpaid like 10 times that card. It just does so much. It's a limited wrath that it can kill anything that's bothering you. Dorks, Notion Thief, and the Commander. Like, in one card, you're 5 for 1 someone or the table. The advantage, the swings you can get with this card, very few cards can give this. Very few the specific removal that you can say. Unless you gear your deck towards, I don't know, Glassum decks, this is probably the second best Wrath in the format, I would say.
And the thing about that is, like, not everybody's going to want to counter it. It's like, okay, I'll do 2 damage to your Najeela and I'll deal 1 damage to your Dork. The person who owns the Dork is like, you know what? Fine, you're getting rid of that Najeela? Great, I'll let you kill my Dork. Fine, cool.
This is where politics come in. This is where politics come in competitive Commander. You're weighing your losses against those of your opponents. And truth be told, a lot of Classums operate at sorcery speed too. And this, again, furthermore, instant speed. Like, everything is in this card's favor. I don't understand why I don't see it more often. Guys, Fire Covenant, still undervalued in my opinion at 5. Even in a less creature-heavy meta, if we shift again, this is still going to be a value piece for removing certain targets. Like, you're always going to see Drannith Magistrate moving forward. So pack this, take out a Dork while you're at it, take out a Commander while you're at it. Fire Covenant is worth it. And the next card I want to talk about that is totally worth it is so good. Dovan's Veto. It is 1 white, 1 blue, Zorius, instant speed. The spell can't be countered. Counter target non-creature spell. It is uncommon and averages about $1.
Screw this card. I have lost so much to this card because it can't get countered, and I play that blue control deck. Like, this is so underpriced. For what it offers in cEDH. This is an absolute 100% staple. No question about it. There's no reason you never run this card. You always run this card.
Buy the promo for
If you're playing
like
blue-white and you're not playing this card, you're doing something wrong. What he said, Justin said, I've been the one that made that happen. Yes, this card is really good. Even
so
the
bad.
foil is like, what, $4 or $5? It's an uncommon from a recent expansion. It's supposed to be dirt cheap. It's like Narset. She's 0.75 each. This is like 0.25, the normal version. Nothing crazy. Pick it up. If you're playing blue-white or domain or anything, pick it up. It's
5 color. I'm still finding the spot for this.
Yeah,
what?
easy. In 5 color, he was saying that he would still cram this in. No, it's totally worth it. It's going to hit pretty much all your major threats.
I mean,
and
basically, all this list we had for the 5 colors, it's in my agenda. So it's
also,
that good.
And by the way, guys, it's from War of the Sparks, so it's still pretty fresh. You still find packs. They're still really cheap to get. And some amazing art by Izzy. So shout out to Izzy. That looks so good. The next card I want to talk about, this is something that's been steadily rising in price, but value has always been there. It's a phenomenal card if you're in Gruul, and it is Vexing Shusher. So it's Gruul, literally, Gruul to play from Shadowmoor. Creature, Goblin, Shaman, 2/2 body. Vexing Shusher itself can't be countered, and has the ability, pay a Gruul, so red or green. Target spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. Now, mind you, you can do this to your opponents, you can do this to your own spells, and it hits any spell on the stack. What do you guys think about Vexing Shusher? Oh, and I should state, it's $14 now on average, roughly 14 on average.
Overall, I think this card is undervalued still. I think it's so good. Food Chain runs this card. 5 color sliver ran this card. I ran this card. And just making things uncounterable in non-blue, like, come on. That's great.
Bloodpot. The rise of Bloodpot. And the deck abuses Vexing Shusher. As Patrick said, you can make counters your own things or uncounterable to others people's, so you screw them over extra. If they're targeting something that's not yours, now it's uncounterable. Deal with it however you can. You can even 2-for-1 them because they waste a counter. I'm like, no. There's a lot of politics with this card. It's really niche. There's a kind of like a skill check in this card, but not as much obviously. But it's mostly like the politics and what you're doing, taking advantage. What spells are you letting through? What spells you don't let through? Like
it is one of the more dynamic cards that we'll be discussing in Multicolor today. And also do note that it is the second most expensive multicolored card we're going to be speaking of. Everything else is very, very budget friendly.
And so if new Food Chain commanders aren't spiking this card, what is spiking this card? And it's really just the increase of players playing into cEDH and getting into a Food Chain type deck.
I say it's Bloodpot. Bloodpot is coming back. There's no more Flash.
Yeah, that's true.
Is it Omnath? Isn't there a Gruul Omnath Food Chain?
It's
a pot.
There's an Omnath Food Chain. I should build that. I would get a kick out of that.
The Royal.
The next card we want to talk about, this has been a staple for a long time. There are 3 printings of it. They all, on average, come in at under $5, and that is Deathrite Shaman. It is Golgari, so black or green for a creature elf shaman, 1/2 body, and it's got 3 abilities on it. You can tap it, exile target land card from a graveyard to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Mind you, the colon is before that line of text, so people can remove stuff from their graveyard before you get to do any of these. For black, tap, exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard, each opponent loses 2 life. Green, tap, exile target creature from a graveyard, you gain 2 life. Guys, what do you think about Deathrite Shaman?
This is your dork Planeswalker. It is so fantastic. And this card sees so much fluctuation because people speculate on it being unbanned. When Pioneer came out, people were like, oh my god, let's spike this card, let's spec on it, let's buy like crazy. And then there's less fetches in that format, so it's obviously not as good. And then everyone strayed away from it. And then I feel like we're at a point now that Deathrite is cheap, and I would pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Totally
still
agree.
a Place Walker.
Mm-hmm.
That's everything you need. And I can't really add anything to what Justin said because it's all there. Yeah, pick it up.
I think that by far the most multicolored cards, most of these multicolored cards that we listed today are in Golgari, which is very interesting to see. Green-black has some of the most potent cards, and Deathrite Shaman being one of the best ones. Like, guys, if you're in Golgari, you should be playing this card. It's not only ramping you, it's not only doing consequential damage by removing instants and sorceries from that Snapcaster Mage, or removing that creature before it gets reanimated. It's layered, the kind of things this does for you. It's layered. And Deathrite Shaman is a fantastic card. There's a lot of cool things you can do with it. It's worth owning, and it's worth playing. The last card we want to talk about, I think, it sees a lot of play. I think it can honestly see more play, and I hope it doesn't, is Notion Thief. It's 2 generic for 1 blue, 1 black. So we're in Dimir. Creature, human rogue for a 3/1 body, flash. If an opponent would draw a card, except for the first one he or she draws in each of his or her draw steps, instead that player skips that draw and you draw a card. So this works for every instance. Now there are 2 print copies of this card, and it is on average $1.50. What do you think about Notion Thief?
Give me a promo. Give me a promo version.
If you wanna know how good this card is, go to episode 1 of Brewers, when I was playing Jaleva. That will make you understand how good this card is. I think I drew something like 20 cards of an Ocean Thief. Card is so good.
Absolutely busted, and it can offer like $100 a gameplay if you land this at the right moment. This is match defining, this card, and we don't need to say much more about that because anyone listening to this understands that Notion Thief is busted, and it is so cheap for what it offers.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, guys, I think it in a more competitive scene for sure. And depending on your meta, you might not always see mass draws, but the thing is, even if it's just incremental draw, even if it's just your opponents shutting off their Sylvan library, it's giving you so much value. It does have the issue in being a 3/1. It's very squishy, but for the most part, when you throw this down, you're throwing it down to get that card draw value. You're really not missing out on much otherwise.
One last card before we shut this off. It's mostly a personal thing. I know you guys disagree, but I would like to point out Drown in the Loch. It's rising in popularity in blue-black decks because it doubles as a counter and a removal. And as Justin said, metas go in more to creatures. So that double value that you can use it against control decks or creature decks, I think it's something to take into consideration when you're building a blue-black deck, no matter what the configuration you're running.
100%. It offers a lot for gameplay value. What is it at right now in price?
It's
from, under $1, like under $1.
They're cheap. It's from like what, 4 or 5 months ago or 6. It's really cheap. You should be picking it up.
Throne of Eldraine? Yeah, I would 100% pick this card up.
Oh yeah, if we add that, then Dimir is tied with Golgari in this sense.
Who would have known? The blue, black, and green, the most busted combinations will have the best cards.
Yeah, no, Drown in the Loch scales so well. It is one of those cards that just gets consequently better as the match goes on, and it really does fit into any Dimir list. I can agree with that. Certainly, if you don't own a copy, pick one up. They're dirt cheap, but the list is long, guys. Obviously, it's that mana base that's going to be the most killer on your wallet. And, we've all suffered it, building these lists, building the competitive states we're at. But it's important to note that, guys, once you pick up the one copy, swap it between your list. You really only need the one to get going if you want to join the competitive scene. But these are all of the staples so far as lands and multicolored cards are concerned. Again, if we missed anything in the multicolored segment, let us know if there are staples or cards that were considered pet cards of yours but have been landing a lot better than you would have realized that we can use in our list. But anyway, guys, any closing thoughts before we leave this one? Any cards that you think are must-buys with this particular set of cards we listed today?
It's always priority to get lands because no matter what kind of deck you're playing, you'll always need the fixing for that deck. So if you want to spend something that you don't have, I will spend on lands. It's always important. Even no matter the format, you'll always want to get your fixing.
Yep. Once again, I just want to advise caution with the current market. I feel like lands really aren't seeing that much fluctuation right now, but I think they're going to start seeing some fluctuation. But a lot of these other cards that we talked in the previous video, these staples of cEDH, I really would hold out before I tried to buy that Wheel of Fortune and that Gilded Drake right now. They are really hyperinflated, and rightfully so, but more so because of these buyouts. And I think they're going to come down not to pre-COVID prices, but they're going to come back down to a more reasonable buy in the coming months. So I would hold out.
So the things I would advise, to piggyback on Justin's comments from that previous video, one thing we neglected to mention was the upcoming reprint of the Mystery Boosters, Mana Crypts. And I was hearing stories of some folks getting Mana Crypts for $95, $100. If you can find deals like that, guys, pick them up. I've heard complaints about the print quality. I can verify they are a little darker in tone, at least the copies I've received, both the foils and non-foils of cards. So if that's going to bother you, then obviously don't pick them up. But a Mana Crypt's a Mana Crypt, and if it's 100 under 120. Under 120 is a good deal. And from this list today, I think honestly, if you're on a budget, just get your shock lands in. Please get those in. Get your commander lands. Like, you're going to use those commander lands in the list you can use them in. I think those are all good buys, as well as Ancient Tomb. That's like another big staple. Like, I remember that's one of the first things when I was buying sets of cards that I knew were going to go into every list. I bought all the Ancient Tombs. But anyway, guys, that's going to close it for this video. Again, I'm Patrick Marlette.
I'm Ernesto Salazar.
Bacon, egg, and cheese, Justin.
Happy brewing, babies.
And stay safe. Stay inside.
Yes, you made it all the way through to the end of the video. Yes, you. I see you sitting there in your sweatpants, your gym shorts. A little creepy, ain't it? But gang, I hope this guide was helpful to you. Again, if you want to help support the channel indirectly, pick up all of those singles via the link in the description at TCG Player. They're the best source for singles at the best prices. Again, hang tight for any of those seasonal sales, discounts, kickbacks. They do them all the time. And again, if you want to help support the channel directly, you can do so via Anchor and or Patreon, and we do appreciate your support here. Thank you so much. But lastly, a note to all of you listeners and viewers: if you are in an industry affected by COVID-19, do not worry about the team here, myself, the channel. It's all going to be okay. Take care of yourselves, your family, and your friends first. Then think about us if you have anything to spare. We really do appreciate it. And to all of the fans of the show that have been helping us out thus far, this is a weird time to start a Patreon. Let me tell you, but I forget when I started it. It hasn't been that long. This has been active. There are 41 of you. I am so surprised by the show of support, how much you guys appreciate the content we provide here. And in doing this and helping out the channel, I'm able to produce more content. It's literally that cut and dry. I've mentioned it already, but a lot of this money goes towards helping the channel's production costs. The gear, cameras, lenses, all the new stuff I pick up to produce better content for you. So I really do appreciate it. And specifically, Adrian, I appreciate you. I'm going to try to go through these speedy. I say that every time, but Adrian, you get the shout out twice. The best. Alex, Ali, Jarn, amazing. Brendan, Bruno, Philippe, I have to say his second name too is just such a sexy name. Burden, I love you. Carl, Christopher, God, so many. Clyde, I love you guys the most. Craig, Dave, Frank, I love you just a little bit less than the previous guys, but above the previous three that I said I loved. Frankly, Gregory, Gulius, am I mispronouncing that? Thank you guys so much. Harry, Jacoby, Jake, excellent names. I love all of you guys. Jared, Jason, Javier, you're all like Scar in my eyes. Mace, Jordan, Josh, Kev, Leon, Leonardo, Luke. These all just roll off the tongue for me. Thank you guys so much for your patronage. Mason, Mahoy Manoy, Nathan, Nick, Oliver, Paul, Running Red Sam, Shade, Shord, The Holy Knight, and Xiao Fan, Xiao, I believe it's SH, Xiao Fan. Thank you guys so much for your patronage. You all are the best fans of this show, and you make a world of difference here. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to yours. May your cup filleth over in the future for all of your support here. I don't know why I said that. I really do appreciate you guys. But thank you again for joining me on another episode of the 99. Again, my name is Patrick Marlette, and happy brewing, babies.